What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Zach and Pat Show. I'm Zach.
I'm Pat.
This is the show about manhood, fatherhood, entrepreneurship, and the mentality it takes to be successful at those things. And we'll probably sprinkle in some helpful real estate advice too, because that's what Pat and I do. You know, guys, life can be tough. We can go through some things and struggle at times, but this is the show to let you know that you're not alone. So if you're someone out there going through any of these things, this is the show for you. Shout out to our friends at NeuroGum for keeping us energized and focused. NeuroGum is a chewing gum, as well as they've got mints. It's got caffeine, L-theanine, and vitamins B6 and 12. Helps with memory and focus. I like to chew it really all the time. Whenever I'm driving around showing houses, making phone calls to my clients, before a big meeting, or before a workout. Just anytime I feel like I need a little bit of a mental boost, pop a piece of NeuroGum, and it gets me to where I need to be. It's only got about 40 milligrams of caffeine per piece, so it's not going to get you super jittery. And get out there, try some NeuroGum.
Shout out to our people over at Captain Beard Co. They make incredible beard products, so beard butter, beard oil, beard balm, as well as candles and shampoo and conditioner, body wash. Everything's made with all natural ingredients. It all smells amazing. So if you're looking for a good male grooming products, give them a shot or give them a try and check out their website and use promo code Zach and Pat for 10% off of your purchase.
And lastly, thanks to our friends at Hand Wraps Rolling Papers for keeping us stocked up with the highest quality rolling papers that you can find. They've got rice rolling papers and hemp rolling papers if you are a cannabis user and it's legal in your state. I believe they're in like 16 local dispensaries here in St. Louis. So if you see them around and you're into that sort of thing, give them a try. Now to introduce our awesome guest today. I've been looking forward to this one for a while, so I'm really excited to get you in here, man. He's the owner of Imposed Will. He's a father. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt, a wrestling coach, the fight commentator for Shamrock FC, the former host of the Outside Perspective podcast, and a retired MMA fighter. The great and powerful Adam Meredith.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's I've been wanting to get you in here for a while, so really glad you're here. So. I guess let's start off. And you have your company Imposed Will. What is Imposed Will?
Yeah. Good question. I feel like this is just like my day-to-day life. Sometimes I always forget like what day it is. Like every day is just today, right? But dude, essentially, man, we're just a lifestyle and apparel brand. We're really heavy in the jiu-jitsu space right now. We're expanding into just general athletic wear and other team sports. But ultimately, man, our mission is just really to help regular people become their best mentally and physically. The how, that'll change and evolve as time goes. But, we try to lead by example and just help people, become better.
Yeah. So how'd you get started? What made you want to start an apparel company?
Dude, I always wonder like what attracts you to something. For whatever reason, I've just always had this draw to sell clothes. I don't know why. You know what I mean? Like, I remember like trying to figure out like what entrepreneurship is, like how do I get into this thing? Like whenever I was in college, like I was in an entrepreneurship club and I took all these courses and whatnot. And I was like, man, like how do you figure out what your thing is? Because you're especially when you're young, you're trying to figure out what's something new, what's this groundbreaking idea that somebody else hasn't done, and it can kind of you start getting like this paralysis by analysis. But whenever I was fighting, I don't know, I just had the idea of just starting this brand. It was initially going to be, just like a fight word line. You think like, that's kind of like the goal of fighting, right? Like you want to impose your will and dominate like another human being. I mean, that was very much the attraction for me with fighting because I'm not really a fighter. Some people really enjoy fighting. They want to get in there and like they love the scrap. I've just always been an athlete, and I've always really enjoyed just like the domination aspect. It's like you can't do anything about it. So there's that is what really drew me to the sport. But yeah, no, dude. It's like after a fight, I was sitting in a bar with a couple of buddies, and we're having like a post-fight drink, and I was like, dude, I will. Like, I just, for whatever reason, just like that tagline just stuck with me. So that was just kind of like the birth of starting this brand. So, and this was in back like,
yeah, when did this start?
Dude, that was probably 2000. And I have the exact date written down. It's either the end of 2009 or the beginning of 2010.
Oh, damn.
So it was it was a long time ago, right? So for the longest time, I put the brand just like in a hobby bucket. So, I made like a couple t-shirts and like a hoodie. I tried to do the thing right out of like undergrad because I graduated in 2010, my bachelor's. And I got on Alibaba, found a supplier in China, got a couple samples in, and their minimums were just so big at the time. And I just had my second kid, so I was like a young married guy, 2 kids, just trying to figure out in the world. And so I just kind of always just kept it as a hobby. So it was always with me throughout my fight career, but it was never really a business. It wasn't until I guess 2021 that I decided to just go all in on it, like as a business, just to eliminate the distractions. Nothing else. I had stopped fighting in 2017, so it's been a while since then. I did the podcast. That took a significant amount of time, and also that was like a distraction because that was kind of the forefront. I thought I could do them both, but I feel like anyone who tells you can do more thing and be like super successful at it is kind of lying to you. Like you really need to go all in.
Yeah, we've talked about that multiple show, and like Tim Grover says it best from his book. If you want to be the best at something, you're going to be the worst at everything else.
Yeah,
because if you want to be the best, you're going to give up everything else, and
you just have to.
Yeah, you have to. You have to.
Yeah.
So it makes complete sense how exactly what you're saying. It makes complete sense.
Yeah, dude. And also, so, if I wanted to have like a number one podcast and I also wanted to have a very successful brand, there's somebody else out there who's solely focusing on that thing, right? So I'm giving 50% of my energy towards something they're putting 100% all in on.
And you're never going to catch up.
Yeah, it's kind of arrogant to think that I could. So I just decided to get rid of all the distractions and just go all in.
Just go all in on it.
Yeah.
So now like financially that your full thing has been imposed will for a while now, I guess.
Yeah, man. It's working out. We've grown quite a bit. I've completely bootstrapped this whole business, but it's growing.
And you guys have a facility, or you have a
we got an office. Got a company vehicle, like all paid for by the company.
Sweet.
We've been able to grow to like 6 figures in sales, but I mean that's still just like a drop in the bucket, especially when you start looking at where we can really go. And
you're
where
still
the goal
young,
is.
man.
So
yeah, you're still young. You're still growing, and I mean over the last. Man, like really since like 2021, really, ever since I came to Watson's, that's when I really started seeing like imposed will stuff like all over. Everybody rocking the geese.
Yeah.
And
dude, I wish we could
and
get Kyle. He's a show-your-old guy.
Oh,
I wish we could steal him.
Yeah, he would be a good one. Maybe someday.
Oh,
Yeah.
he'd be perfect.
Dude, he'd be. I mean, he's just. But I mean, regardless, everybody's gym still rocks your stuff. I mean, everybody wants to support the local guy too.
Yeah, we're pretty fortunate. I don't think you can go into a jiu-jitsu gym, at least not in this city, and not find our gear.
Right.
But we've gotten so much love from Tag Team. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
Just that whole team has just been super receptive.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So, especially you not being a Tag Team guy yourself, right? I mean, you're St. Charles, you're a Vaggie guy, right?
Yeah.
That's where you got your black belt.
Yeah, and that gets really weird in the jiu-jitsu space, right? Like it gets kind of like everybody wants to be a gang and kind of stick with their clique. I'm such a chameleon. I feel pretty fortunate that I'm pretty cool with pretty much everybody in the community, right? So I've never really let that old school mentality of like, oh, my team's better than your team. Yeah, I don't let that get in the way of business for sure. I'm definitely Switzerland.
Yeah, right. That's the right move to be if you want to, expand your brand to the most amount of people possible.
Yeah, 100%. We're all just doing jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with jiu-jitsu. I feel like, I don't know, I've not experienced a ton of the gangy clique kind of, like personally, in my experience. Every coach I've ever had has always been cool with cross training and all that kind of stuff. So, I've never cared about what we wear in the gym. I mean, Kyle's one rule is he just doesn't like funky colored gis. So like our one rule is black, white, or blue, and that's it. Like, okay, I can stick to that.
For sure.
He just doesn't want like tie-dye gis and shit. So
yeah, you guys have a great culture,
Yes.
without a doubt. And I think you've come into the space at a time where that train of thought, whereas like my team versus your team, is definitely it's with an older generation for sure.
Sure. Yeah. So actually, speaking of that, how did what kind of started you in martial arts? Were you wrestled in high school?
Yeah. I was a wrestler and a football player, and then I went to Lindenwood on a wrestling scholarship. So my former wife and I, we found out that she was pregnant with my son, AJ, during my sophomore year, I think it was. So, I mean, I stopped wrestling after my freshman year in college and then just started working. But I still had that itch to compete. And I don't know if it's just like the type A personality in me. Like, I just want to be in control. And so I felt like I had at least some control over my destiny, like going after like a sport or something. I think I've always really deep down been an entrepreneur, but when you're growing up, you kind of have, at least for me, I had the aspirations of being like a professional athlete.
Sure.
And I quickly realized like I'm way better at wrestling than I am football. And I was a pretty good football player, but like I'm not a giant. Like
No,
it
you
was
gotta be.
obvious like I'm not going to college football. So, you know, whenever I was done wrestling, it was kind of just a natural progression to get into fighting. It's like I want to compete. I want to do something that I could potentially provide for my family with. And yeah, I mean that's just what took me into it. I was an independent fighter for the first year of my career. So my first 4 fights were without a gym. It was just like me working out and
Really?
just kind of like relying on, you know, my wrestling base and then just studying whatever film that I could, which was basically just watching UFC.
Yeah.
Right? So just study as much as I could. And, you know, after I guess like a year of fighting, I found my way to St. Charles MMA.
Okay. So like, yeah, that first year, so you just like hitting the bag by yourself in the garage or like?
Yeah, dude, you know, there's a buddy, shout out to Chris Perez. There's a buddy at Lindenwood who was kind of into fighting a little bit. So we would just like work out, you know, just he and I a little bit, but for the most part, it was just me working out, staying in shape, just trying to get, you know, the best gas tank that I could. And just knowing that, you know, I was pretty confident in my fighting ability anyway. Like, you know, I kind of fought a little bit in high school. I wasn't like a great fighter by any stretch of the imagination, but like I could definitely handle myself. So I think just having that arrogance and confidence of, you know, I can handle myself if I need to. I just went in there and just relied on my wrestling. So, you know, I had pretty good outcomes in those first 4 fights. So, you know, you just kind of build the confidence and you don't really worry about anything negative.
Yeah. So
would you be sparring with him too then, or were like, because I feel like that's a major part of training is the sparring aspect, so you can get used to being put in situations that you're not comfortable with.
For sure. Yeah. You know, we did some light kind of touch sparring, but, you know, he didn't have a super, you know, wide base either of knowledge. Like he was somewhat knowledgeable, but knowing what I know today, like he didn't know very much,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So it was just kind of, he would kind of show me what he knew, but ultimately like that's what made me go to a gym. I just knew there was so much that I didn't know and I needed to actually get into a gym. I wanted to have any success for real.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, so the first 4 fights you hadn't, I mean, I guess the first fight you took was the first like live rounds of getting kicked and punched and.
Dude, yeah. And like this fight was,
oh boy.
Dude, yeah. Like, so they had me matched up with this guy who was also, I think he was like maybe 0-1. He only had like 1 or 2 fights. I was like, all right, cool. That makes sense. Like it's a fair matchup. And then last minute, dude, they switched me with a guy who, at least for this particular little promotion was like their little champ.
Okay.
And he probably had 7 or 8 fights.
Oh,
and so,
shit.
dude, yeah, I mean, probably first 15 seconds of the fight, dude, he fucking hit. He was a southpaw. He hit me with just a 2 down the middle, broke my nose, snapped my head back. And I just immediately just rushed in for a takedown, took him down. Tried to mount him. He like, it was a sloppy mount. So he like pushed me off to the side and like then takes my back and proceeds to fucking go ham on me. I was able to get to my feet and get him back down. I ultimately won the fight just based off my, yeah, dude, I won all 4 of my first fights. Like whenever I was independent, just solely based off of wrestling. Like he was definitely the toughest. I ended up winning the fight though. We actually had a rematch, I don't know, like 2 fights later, and I submitted him in like, I don't know, the first period. So,
cool.
Yeah, man, it was just kind of trial by fire.
Yeah. So you didn't have any like jiu-jitsu experience?
Zero jiu-jitsu, dude. I mean, that was so even more so than striking. That was my main reason of finding a gym. I was like, I really want to
learn this.
Dude, this is when BJ Penn was super big, and everybody's talking about how he got his black belt in like
3 years.
Yeah,
or something,
whatever it was, something crazy, and just jiu-jitsu was the talk, right? Because at this time, you know, you could specialize in one thing and do really well in UFC, right? Like, no, everybody wasn't as savage like they were now, or they are now. So yeah, man, I was like, I gotta learn this thing. I really wanted to learn sweeps. I remember I was so focused, like I gotta learn sweeps.
I gotta get on top.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It was cool though.
Yeah, so you know, when did you like officially, or when was it that you joined the gym? Like,
I joined, 2019 is whenever I joined St. Charles MMA.
Okay.
Probably like September timeframe, like whenever I went back to school.
Okay.
So Josh Sampo, who was on the wrestling team, he was a senior whenever I was a freshman. He was training there, and there's a few other guys kind of going to it was like the original location off of Randolph in St. Charles, like this just 1-room gym, super tiny. I think Mike lived upstairs. And so yeah, I found my way there, and it was really cool, man. I mean, it was the first time it was you know, around all these fighters and people who actually knew something. Dude, my very first day of training, Tyron Woodley was in there. So I got to roll with him, and he just like beat my ass, and I was like, "Oh yes, I love this so much."
Yeah, it makes you guys probably realize like how much you had to learn, you know.
Oh yeah,
especially when you get into a gym where it's everybody knows all these things that you don't, like jujitsu, and they've got more experience, and
Yeah,
big wake up call.
that's what I was there for, man.
Well,
Yeah.
now I guess at that time he was like heavy in the UFC at that point.
No, so at
19?
this time he was still very
Oh.
early in his career. He was just with Strike Force. He
Gotcha,
just signed
okay.
with Strike Force.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is super early in his career.
Still, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's definitely really cool. Damn, that's awesome. And then so where did your fighting career progress from there?
So from there, dude, it was so I was at St. Charles for like a year, and then I basically put a pause on fighting. I moved to San Antonio. So again, my former wife and I, we moved down there. She had family down there, and we just moved in with her parents. The idea was to like save up for a house. We were there for like a little less than a year, like back here. A major reason was because I wanted to continue fighting, and I wanted to come back to the gym. So I came back and just kind of progressed from there, man. So went through the amateur ranks. Decided to go pro, and did that whole thing.
And
Was
how
there
long-
not anything down in San Antonio worth getting into down there? Or just-
So there was. I think there's just this huge piece of me, like I'm super loyal, and
Mhm.
I really liked the gym, and also I wanted to come back here. San Antonio was cool. Hindsight being 2020, it was actually a pretty cool spot. But I wasn't loving it down there.
Yeah.
So
you're from St. Louis,
I'm from Jeff City.
Jeff City.
Yeah, so I'm from Missouri.
Missouri.
But so her and I both were from Jeff City. So we just wanted to come back to Missouri.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Dude, one of the things I really appreciated about Missouri after leaving was, especially in San Antonio, it's very brown down there. There's not a lot of greenery.
Mhm.
So I just really miss the green vegetation, to be honest with you.
Did you ever get caught up in any of those dust storms that they have down there?
I did not.
Oh,
No.
man, those are wild.
Yeah.
Wild. I was down there for some baseball games, and we got stuck in a dust storm. It was insane.
Mother Nature.
Yeah,
Nature's
Mother,
crazy.
Mother Nature doesn't fuck around.
No.
No.
No. So how many pro fights did you end up having?
I think I was 5-3 when it was all. Yeah. For MMA. I had one pro boxing and a kickboxing.
Okay. So now your first all your fights, were those all MMA except for those couple boxing and kickboxing?
So as an amateur, so Mike actually made us do everything.
Okay.
So yeah, so I think I probably had 12 or 13 MMA fights, but he made us do Golden Glove boxing. So we did boxing. He'd make us take kickboxing matches. He just had us do everything. So I did an amateur Muay Thai, boxing. I don't think I did amateur kickboxing, just a pro kickboxing.
Which one do you like the most?
MMA for sure. That
You
was
can
that was
wrestle.
always the focus.
Yeah.
Dude, when you fight MMA, everything else is just, I don't want to say easy, but it's a lot less stressful.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because you
Yeah,
don't
less
have
to worry about.
You don't have
Exactly.
to
It's
worry-
like, oh yeah,
boxing-
we're just throwing punches,
Yeah.
or we're just
Yeah.
kicking and punching, or
I've only got to worry about those. If it's boxing, I only got to worry about his hands. I don't
yeah,
have to worry about him
exactly. You
kicking
go
me
do
or taking me
jujitsu.
down.
It's like, oh, we're just doing jujitsu. You don't have to worry about getting punched when we're down here. So
Right.
yeah,
It's a big
a
difference.
whole lot less stressful. But yeah, MMA was always the focus.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so how long did it take you? So you said you started in jiu-jitsu in 2019, and how long did it take you to get your black belt?
Oh, so I started jujitsu. It was 2009.
Oh,
so,
2009.
Yeah,
Okay.
2009. So I 12 years. So I got my black belt 3 years ago. What are we, 2020? So 2021. So what's
Yeah.
that, 12 years? Yeah.
12 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are some breaks in there. Like I said, whenever I moved to San Antonio, I didn't train for a whole year. And then, especially when MMA was the focus, I was never like training a ton of jiu-jitsu. Like I was doing jiu-jitsu, but MMA was always the focus. So I'd always do jiu-jitsu for MMA.
Sure.
I was still training the gi and whatnot, but it wasn't once I stopped fighting MMA, it was all about jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I was a purple belt at that time.
Have you ever done any competitive jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Whether like it's a major tournament or like I did when JW was doing those respect cards.
Yeah.
I did one of those. I think that's the actually only pro jiu-jitsu that I did. No, I competed on an invitational one time.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I got beat by Will Tackett.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Holy shit. Man.
Dude, he
He's
was
a
only
freak.
16 at the time.
Yeah. He was
Andrew
just,
Tackett was the one on a CXP.
okay.
It was, but Will was
brother.
Will's his older brother.
His older brother.
and
Absolute savage.
He was
Yeah,
the one
dude.
who went against Rock. No,
I thought they were both in there.
They're both in
They're
there.
both
but
in
but
there.
the older one went to the heavier weight class.
Yeah.
And but the first guy he went against, he had like 60 pounds on him or something.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but yeah,
Yeah.
he's an absolute savage.
For
Great
sure.
kid. Yeah, absolute savage.
What'd you think of that Greg Jones Invitational?
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything that whole weekend between
Me too.
ADCC
Same.
and Chris
Yeah.
Jones.
Same.
Yeah,
That's
we
all
were
I-
just
that's all I did.
we did a little fight companion for it, and I just watched it live here.
Did you guys stay here the whole first day?
Oh, yeah.
No, the second day. We just did
second
this,
day?
just the second day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that would have been a long, it would have been like 9 hours or something.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah, we just did the finals, and then we were there also was a UFC card.
Fight.
There was because
was that the note shows? Was that in the that night?
I don't think so. I think there was another, but there was
that was that night. That it was the no, it wasn't.
No, I don't think it was.
Las Noches.
Yeah, because it wasn't the same day Sugar fought. Sugar was the main event on that one. But yeah, that was the Craig Jones thing was awesome. I mean, I love the pit fighting, because like the resets are what really, like, I would say, Craig's talked about it before. I think that's definitely one of the biggest problems with like competitive jiu-jitsu is like the people rolling off the mat.
Yeah,
you reset
for sure.
I mean, that's what got you in your last competition.
Yeah, I mean, we reset. I mean, I definitely didn't put myself in the right position. That was my fault, and I he ended up catching me real quick right off the whistle, pretty much. So, but you learn.
Yeah, resets suck for sure because you don't have the same tension.
Yeah, and you lose that momentum
of the position reset.
Yeah, and you lose the momentum, and it's just like it just doesn't. It just doesn't. It just doesn't work well. I like that's what I like about the CXBJJ with the pit. We were talking. I was like, man, I wonder if that's going to be 10 years from now. Is that going to be like the standard way?
It'd be cool.
And
yeah,
obviously it would make setting up the venues for these events way more intensive, or like way more
for sure.
Because like you need like some sort of like stadium seating to see down into it. And,
right. Yeah. I mean, it's going to increase your capital investment for sure.
For sure.
So,
but ultimately, I think it puts out a better product. So maybe we'll see more of it. Who knows? I mean, this was the first year of that. So
yeah, he definitely changed the whole landscape of jiu-jitsu with it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It's going to be the new big thing because he's doing it every year, right?
That's what he said.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. It's all up to, I guess, the people investing.
Trying to come up with all that money every year is going to be tough. But I don't know. I think they did pretty well in terms of viewership.
Oh, yeah. I think it was like over 100 million views over all the platforms. I think he said they had like, maybe not 100. But it was maybe it was.
It was millions of views. It was a lot.
For sure.
Yeah.
Which is, for jiu-jitsu, it's huge.
It's
such a niche sport that you really only watch if you're into it.
Yeah.
Like none of my friends that don't train jiu-jitsu don't watch. Like, I mean.
Well, and I think it's just, I feel like jiu-jitsu as a whole is just blown up over the last, really since COVID. I feel like every time I turn around, or maybe it's just because the people that I'm surrounded with are constantly talking about it, but I feel like jiu-jitsu in whole has gotten way more popular than it was.
Yeah, it's always growing for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we've I think it was this last year for like the one of the big Fuji tournaments here. We were talking about it as like the year before they had like 500 people, or like 500 people sign up for the whole tournament, and the next year, a year later, it was like well over 1,000.
Oh wow.
Which is like doubled in a year, which is just crazy.
Yeah, that's massive.
But and then you're a commentator for Shamrock as well. How'd you get into that? The podcast kind of lead you into that, or how?
I think so. So whenever I was doing the podcast, I was also kind of doing some just like freelance photography, and I was doing some photography for those guys for their social media, at their shows. So I probably did that for a year for those guys. I think just because I had Jesse on the podcast one time, and I don't know if
actually I think I listened to that episode.
I think they just needed somebody to fill in, and it was like during a show. So Jesse came up to me and was like, "Hey, dude, you want to hop on the commentary real quick?" And I think I did commentary for the last 2 or 3 fights, and then after that, they just offered me a gig.
That's sweet.
Yeah, it just kind of fell in my lap.
I'm sure it's a lot of fun for you and all that, and just another thing to do.
Yeah, it keeps me in the sport.
Right.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, it's fun. I feel like I'm pretty knowledgeable, and I can articulate it fairly well. And I think just because of all the reps from the podcast. So yeah, it works out. I think. People would be surprised. I'm not that guy who's I'm not a massive fan of anything to where like I really follow it. I've just never been that guy who, like follows baseball or basketball or football and knows all the stats and all the players and whatnot. So even with fighting, whenever I was doing it, I'd watch it, but it was more like studying.
Mm-hmm.
And then like now that I don't really fight, I don't really keep up. Like I kind of see what's going on peripherally, but I don't really keep up. So it's definitely a fun gig. It keeps me in the sport, but it's like I'm not that guy who's just like, oh my god, like I absolutely love fighting.
Yeah.
I think people would be surprised by that.
Yeah, I mean that's how I was with baseball. I can't stand watching baseball. I played it for 20 years of my life, and I mean, I still can't watch this. It's the most boring sport to watch.
Yeah, I've always had a hard time with that. Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
watch
What
it.
about going to games? You go to the game?
I have been to. Let's see, since I retired,
Wow.
Wow.
and it's all because it's been guys that I know that are playing,
Okay.
and so I'll go see them, say hi, and then I haven't been to a full baseball game. Shoot, probably since I was in high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Wow.
Except for ones you were playing.
Except for the
obviously.
one, except
Yeah.
for the ones that I was playing.
Yeah, I get it. Like once you do a thing, you kind of loses some of that. I don't know, that novelty of like being
Yeah.
a fan.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Kind of see how the
You see
sausage
that
is made.
like because you're watching it in a different way.
Yeah, especially once you understand the business of something.
Oh, for
that,
sure.
That definitely changes things.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest reasons why is like know the ins and outs and like why some guys made it, some guys didn't. Like there's so many guys that I played with in the minor leagues that were good enough to be big league baseball players. Hell, probably could have been very successful big baseball players, but business side of it, they just didn't have the money invested in these guys
Yeah.
for them to bring them up. And it gets to a point like, yeah, they're going to pull up the guys that they've got money in before they pull anybody else. And I mean, it's the luck of the draw, but I mean, once you get to AA, if you're hot, you're hot, at the right time, but it takes a lot of luck once you get to a certain point, depending on where you were drafted. To
Yeah.
get up into the so
Yeah, you can't underestimate just luck or
Mhm.
timing.
right, absolutely.
For sure. There's definitely a piece of that, even with just about anything. It's
Oh, yeah.
kind of being in the right place, right time, meeting the right person. I mean, I think one relationship, one friendship can kind of change the course of your life. I know it's kind of done that for me. Like when I first got into real estate, meeting my buddy that kind of took me under his wing. I mean, that kind of changed the course of my life, honestly. Like I was kind of in a lost space where I didn't really know what I was going to do. And,
Yeah.
I eventually got my license, then I got it and I was like, I don't really know what to do now. And I met him and he like kind of showed me the way. And like, if I wouldn't have met him, I don't know where I'd be.
Yeah. Relationships truly are everything.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. It's a lot more beneficial in like business and life. But once you start getting like sports and stuff, then it gets kind of dirty.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like, who the hell do you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So with imposed will, what's the goal moving forward with imposed will?
Dude, it's just I feel like it's just kind of like more of the same. Like there's some things that we're kind of working on, like kind of like working on the business, kind of help it grow. It's kind of like just all shit, but I mean, ultimately, man, like the mission's kind of just figure out different ways to like help people and like grow the brand and the community, and then yeah, man, just capitalists in me just always look for ways just to more sales and push to seven
Sure.
figures, dude.
Yeah.
Well, not and because I know it's big in the jujitsu space.
Yeah.
Is that the main focus? Or are you looking to branch out into other things? Or
Yeah, for sure. So, I really dialed in on jiu-jitsu first just
That makes
because
sense.
yeah, there's so many t-shirt brands,
Yep.
It's such a saturated market, right? I mean, I'm selling a commodity.
Mm.
I'm under no illusion, right? So, I tried the t-shirt thing and I was like, well, let me do something that's a little more niche and then something that I'm familiar with. So I chose the jiu-jitsu community first and there's still a lot to do there. Like we're doing okay, but I mean, we're mostly here, but like we are spread throughout the country. Like we get regular sales from like throughout the country, but it's like there's just still so much growth to do. So we'll still do more in jiu-jitsu, but I'm definitely going to expand like with what you guys are wearing, just more in just like general
athletic wear.
athletic wear,
Workout clothes.
yeah, athleisure. We still need to roll out like our women's line, but then just expanding to more sports. So I kind of like break up. If I'm getting in the weeds, just let me know.
No.
But
No,
like, I kind
go
of like
for it.
break up the business in like two buckets. And like first is like like the direct to consumer, which is like kind of like what you guys are wearing. Like those sales are a little bit slower. Like most of our business is like B2B, like working with gyms and doing like custom gear for those guys. So just from like a growth standpoint, I'm definitely going to focus more on like the B2B and expanding into other sports. Like my son's doing club volleyball,
Okay.
and I think there's a huge market for that. I mean, like I had to order the uniforms. Like, oh, I can make these, and like one of them is literally just a rash guard, so I can definitely make those.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna definitely start attacking more of these team sports. Wrestling will be one. Last year we did a deal with like the Raleigh School District. And like, so we did like their middle school and we did their kids club. We're going to do their high school coming up.
Like singlets?
Yeah, singlets.
cool.
So Yeah, we'll just start expanding into these other sports, wrestling, volleyball, soccer, track, some of the more easy ones, and then start trying to hit some of the bigger ones, basketball. But
Hockey would be a good one because I know a lot of hockey. Well, I mean, I've worn my rash guard, especially there's rinks here that are outside that we're playing pickup games, and we'll throw a rash guard on underneath just to stay warm.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of guys that just wear that in general underneath their hockey equipment. So that might be another one to
For sure, dude. I mean, ultimately, dude. I mean, I'm the big picture plan is to like build a Nike, like be everywhere in all things. Ultimately, I want to bring our manufacturing in house, so that way we're like creating jobs and we can make things here.
American made. You could advertise 100%. American made.
Yeah, and I think what we all kind of saw, especially with like the lockdowns and just supply chain issues. Fortunately, like for me as a business, like I wasn't super affected by that. We don't really do a lot of like big freight on ships, but it's definitely something to be aware of. And like I'll talk to people and it really pisses me off because they'll all say the same thing, like, well, you can't make money doing American made. It's like, well, bullshit, why not?
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I
There's
mean?
People
it's
that
like,
are doing it.
And there's a reason why it's difficult now, but it doesn't mean that it can't be done. So I think Origin's really shown the
I was gonna say
100% with that. So whether or not we're like we have looms and we're going through like that I don't know like when we'll get there, but doing like cut and sew and bringing stuff in house and giving people careers and skills. I mean, I don't see why we can't do that. So like big picture, that's kind of
that's really cool. Yeah, and
because they did your kit, right?
Yeah, you guys
that was awesome.
Yeah, I love that. It's my favorite. I wear it all the time.
Thanks,
it's my favorite.
Yeah, I really appreciate that too.
Oh, of course, bro. It looks sick, and I got an extra rash guard too.
Yeah,
sweet. This is awesome. I love it, man. I wear it all the time. That and the shorts. I mean, it just looks sick together. Fortunately, I wasn't able to pull out the win on that one, but rocking it. But
that's all good.
Yeah, you
plenty of other times to wear it.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
Oh, for sure. It's gonna be my definitely my competition kit for sure. Anytime I compete no-gi.
Yeah, you've been competing quite a bit, dude.
Yeah. It's been a good. Well, really, because I had those basically two of the pro super fights like almost like back to back, like 3 weeks apart, which was really cool. I loved doing those. Those are really fun. Just having the kind of one-off match. Unfortunately, my last one, I had a opponent change like the day before.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be going up against Sean Woodson.
Yeah.
And I was kind of had a whole game plan for him, and being an MMA guy and not being as I was going to get way more jiu-jitsu, like try to foot lock him or do something like that. I was going to pull guard, which is I never pull guard. I always make the joke that it's against my religion because I wrestled,
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm going to pull on this guy because everybody I've trained that I know that's trained with him had said he's pretty hard to take down because he's so tall.
Yeah, and, he's long.
Yeah, have you trained with him?
No. So we were one time. I think we had an opportunity to train together at the Hit Squad whenever I was still fighting, and I ended up spraining my knee like early on in sparring. So I only got like one or two rounds in that day, so I didn't get to go with him.
Yeah, and so that was the game plan at the time. But then my opponent changed the day before, and I was like, all right, well, I don't know if looking back on it, I probably should have just stuck to this game plan because that's like all I was drilling for like a month before.
Yeah,
I was like working on this pull specifically that was going to get me right into where I wanted to be, and I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to go back to Old Faithful, and I was able to, I was doing all right in the match, but then he ended up putting me in that weird. I don't know if you remember it or saw it, but he had like I got submitted from top of side control.
Oh, really? It happens.
Yeah, it was embarrassing. So, but oh well.
That's fine. Dude, he hasn't got you into jiu-jitsu yet?
No, I've started.
Okay.
I went for 3 months and then hockey started. So hockey's always been my love.
Yeah.
And so I played twice a week and then throw in single dad life, work, coaching. I coach a baseball team. So
nice.
Throw all that in. It's like
CrossFit.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's only so many hours.
Yeah, where am I going to fit jiu-jitsu in? So like once hockey season ends, which is in March, so like it'll probably like obviously I'm not looking to get into it to compete. I'm looking to get into learn the skills, learn all that stuff. So, it's probably for me it's going to be a March through August type thing to keep me in shape when I'm not playing hockey that I can substitute for those 2 days that I'm not playing hockey. I can throw jiu-jitsu in there, but that'll be from like March through August that I do jiu-jitsu. And then once hockey starts until I get to the point where I'm done playing hockey, but I love playing hockey.
You do ice hockey or roller hockey?
Ice hockey. Nice. Yeah, I started playing when I was real young, and that was my sport growing up, and really only played baseball just to stay in shape during the summer, but I just happened to be really good at baseball.
How many fake teeth do you have?
0.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. So like growing up,
you didn't play hard, bro.
I just that's the thing when you're growing up and you have to wear a face mask,
Yeah.
like a full mask all the way up, and I never got to the point until playing in men's league hockey of wearing a half shield, but you're playing against a bunch of older guys that know how to control their stick, so it's not anything that you really have to worry about. So
yeah, everybody has to go to work the next day, so
right.
no one's
Exactly. You're out there having fun, skating, and still being competitive. So
right.
it's not anything that you really have to worry about. So
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So all my teeth. All my teeth.
Had them all.
Yeah. But no, I loved jiu-jitsu. I had a blast while I was doing it. I was getting my ass kicked constantly, which was great. I mean, I went to a couple of the basic classes to get started, but then with this shift in my coaching schedule during the summer for baseball, the only time I could really make was in the morning, which was the fundamentals. So I had like 3 classes of basics and then thrown right into the fundamentals and just getting my ass whooped by a bunch of blue, purple, brown.
Where are you training at?
Watson's.
Watson's,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, because Kyle, I'm not sure if he does like a kind of, because his school's so big, he does like an intro course. He calls it the basics, where you're kind of there for your first like 2 or 3 months, kind of in a class with other brand new white belts.
Yeah, that makes sense.
As a class I taught for about 2.5 years until we had our second kid 6 months ago, and I was like, I just don't have time anymore.
Yeah.
And it's cool because just kind of it's an easier way. His retention, I think it definitely helps with your retention of students, because like where I first started at Finney's, like like just my very first day, just kind of got thrown to the wolves. It's like a sink or swim kind of thing, and
that's most of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, for sure. And but I think this is a good way to do it, where you kind of get introduced to it slowly, and you're in there with other brand new people, so you're not just going in there and just getting dominated by some guy that's been training for 10 years.
Yeah, it's tough, dude. I teach on Wednesdays at 6 at St. Charles, and at 5 there's a fundamentals class, but inevitably there's always somebody brand new who wants to come take my class. And I teach a lot of basics, like I don't do crazy stuff, but like ultimately, it's just the pace of the class is just
a lot faster.
Yeah, as I kind of for my class is kind of understood that you have a certain baseline of knowledge, because some days like I do a ton of teaching, but honestly some days I'm just like, look, dude, we're just gonna go.
Just gonna set the time.
Dude, like we're just gonna go maybe live from positions, or it's like we do. For my warm ups, I do flow rolling. So it's like if you don't have any jujitsu,
it makes no sense.
It makes no sense to you. It's like you might as well just sit on the wall and watch, which is fine, but it's you need a certain level of understanding for my class, because it's like drinking from a water hose. So if you are brand new, you can take the class, especially if we're just drilling a technique or something. Like you'll figure it out, but you're just trying to figure out which way is up.
Oh yeah, especially when you don't know anything. Like
that's the thing is like I got in, and I think the only submission I had learned at that point was the north-south Kimura, but I only did it for one class, so it's not like I really had a grasp on it.
Right.
And then the next class I'm in is the fundamentals class, and I'm like the drilling that we did, like I was able to pick up on the drilling, but I'm like those guys are moving at such a quick pace, and the way that they're practicing those drills versus the way like I'm going extremely slow and methodical just to kind of get used to the moves, and these guys are flying through it. And I felt bad because I felt like I was taking up time from their time being able to train, because I was going so slow with this stuff. But then like once we started the sparring and all that stuff, I mean, shoot, the first guy I went with armbarred me in like 10 seconds. And I was like, well, fuck me.
Yeah, he's like, I'm a big guy. Nobody's gonna be able to submit me.
That's not. I didn't think that. That thought was gone. That thought was never in my head.
Yeah.
I mean, after a while, like after I started taking more and more classes at the fundamental levels and learning, the like starting with the grappling and all that, like I was okay with the grappling stuff. I mean, being a bigger guy, and I mean, Zach and I grappled and sparred a few times that, I feel like I'm pretty tough to take down. Once I got the hang of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, from that, like, once I'm down, like, I'm like, all right, what the fuck do
now
I do?
What? Now
what? Just don't let them do this.
Right. Yeah, like all your natural human reactions are get you in trouble.
Yes, 100%.
Right.
Yes, it's like your natural instinct is you gotta like untrain that.
Yeah, everything's counterintuitive.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you think you want to turn your back to get away from this guy, and it's the worst thing you could do.
Yeah,
especially with wrestling. Like that was a like a habit that I had going into jiu-jitsu, or like I can remember like if we start from the feet, like getting taken down or something, I would immediately like
Yeah,
belly down,
you
belly
belly out,
down,
yeah.
you know, and
Yep.
that's like the worst thing you can do in jiu-jitsu, or I'd get caught in triangles constantly.
All the
And
time,
all the
too much
wrestlers,
pressure.
yeah,
Yeah.
just driving forward and then just getting caught. Like I always, my first class, just got triangled like 3 times by Amanda Clifton, who's a black belt. I don't know if you know Amanda, but yeah, beat my ass.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit.
Super
Super
humbling.
eye opening. I was like,
Yeah.
God damn, it made me like open my eyes to it. And I was like, man, I got to learn this shit.
Yeah.
It's so fun though, man. It's been one of the best things I think I've ever, that I've ever started and done is jiu-jitsu. I've actually haven't trained in almost 2 weeks now. So I'm looking forward to getting back in there tomorrow. We just got some tattoos over the last week and
Yeah.
so yeah,
Looking good.
Yeah,
What'd you
man.
get?
I got a
Is that samurai sword?
a samurai,
Masked?
and then a koi fish on the inside here.
Oh, that's sick. Where'd you go?
My buddy Caleb Giannino, he's at Tower Classic.
Okay.
He used to be at Art Monster, but he moved shops recently.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's so many good artists now.
Oh, dude.
Once upon a time, like you had to really search, and now, I mean, they're almost everywhere.
Yeah, like everywhere you can go pull up someone's Instagram and be like, holy shit.
Yeah,
Like,
so many good artists.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, I see the one you got on your hand. What other ones do you have?
Oh yeah, on my hand, I got my forearm, my thigh.
Hmm.
I got several.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty geeked up.
inked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, been wanting to get it all the way down to my wrist for a while now, so I'm glad I finally pulled the trigger.
Nice.
Yeah, a lot of hours.
How many sessions?
This from the elbow down was 3.
Okay.
We did it. It was probably 15 hours or so total.
Yeah, it's detailed.
Yeah, took a while, and then up here was another 4 sessions. Those were probably 4 to 6 hours per session. So
Yeah.
a lot
Nice.
of hours on that arm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're a dad as well. That was one thing we talk about on the show.
Yeah.
So how many? You have 2 kids?
2 kids. Yeah, man. They're 14 and 16. So
Okay.
yeah, dude, I was 20 years old when we had my son.
Damn.
Yeah, and 22 and had my daughter. So started really young.
Yeah.
Pluses and minuses for sure.
Yeah, what was that? What was that like being in college and trying to raise kids, babies?
Dude, fortunately, when they're young, they're actually really easy. I mean, they obviously take a lot of time and stuff, but hindsight being 2020, you always feel like you can do better. But it was a, I don't know, it was a good experience. It is a good experience. I guess the positive about when you're a young parent is that like you have the energy. But on the flip side, it's like, you're both growing up together,
Yeah.
so there's definitely some things where like, man, I wish I would have maybe instilled this with them or maybe not have taught them that lesson. But, it's trial and error. Nobody knows what they're really doing anyway.
And
But
both,
it's been good.
both boys, boy, girl.
Boy and a girl. Yeah.
Okay.
So my son's the oldest. And my daughter's the youngest. When she was real young, she was diagnosed with autism. So I went real heavy on just trying to like treat her brain, just anti-inflammatory stuff, lion's mane mushroom, CBD, like all these things, healthy diet. And like she does great. Like she used to be on IAP. Like she's not on an IAP at school anymore. She's in advanced classes now. So
That's awesome.
yeah. So I mean, they're both really great kids. Like I said, they both play volleyball. So
Okay.
my son's in club volleyball right now. But
I
yeah,
heard that's
man,
pretty intense shit.
dude, it is. And like, so I graduated high school in 2006, and men's volleyball was not a thing.
No,
No.
I was the same. 06.
Yeah, like it was not a thing, right? So now it's massive, dude. We
Really?
just got back from a tournament in Indianapolis. I mean, there was almost 100 courts there. It was just
Damn.
so many teams, dude, from all over the country, dude. From literally every state, like California to Florida, like they were all over. It was insane. There's this one team. It's called Beta Bay. They're in Silicon Valley. They're like national champions. I was like, son, I like every single one of those kids their parents are like multimillionaires.
Multimillionaires,
Yeah,
for
you don't
sure.
live in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just to live in Silicon
Right.
Valley, you have to make
Yeah,
multiple
dude, like,
millions
but
of dollars.
These
dude.
kids are freaking savages, dude. So yeah, it's growing quite a bit. So I'm a full on volleyball dad.
It's awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, because there's the place that we practice at for baseball in the winters called the Bud Dome down in South County, and I know that they've got. I mean, I think they make all of their money on volleyball tournaments.
Do they?
Oh yeah, because they've got it. It's an old warehouse in the industrial park where First Form used to be, Green Park Industrial Park,
Yeah.
and it's a big ass building, like so big that they've got one full baseball field in there. Like kids that are like, I think it's like 12 and under can actually play full games on one of the infields.
So cool.
Then they've got another infield, got a full gym in there with I forget what company runs the gym. And then they've got a full basketball court that they convert into one volleyball court, and then on another part of it is like I want to say like 15 volleyball courts, just all side by side all the way down, and they're constantly
Yeah.
constantly running volleyball tournaments through there.
Yeah.
It's
The
insane.
sport's blowing up.
Oh,
Dude.
yeah.
Yeah. Which is why
It's so much fun to watch.
Oh, it's so exciting.
Yeah.
It's intense.
It's so fast paced, so quick, so back and forth. All
Yeah.
of that. It's
Well, it's crazy because you guys were 06. Now I was 2011, and my high school we won state in volleyball. Met the men's like won state. I think junior or senior year.
Oh, cool.
And it was like one of the sports that my school was good at. You know,
Really?
and at the time,
it was starting to get big when I was in high school. So Oakville had a really solid team. I think we had 3 or 4 guys went and played Division I volleyball.
Oh, nice.
But not every school had one. I know Oakville, and then Vianney was like another big one. Like we were like 1 and 2 in state at that time, and
Okay.
we played each other. And I remember like we played Vianney at Oakville, and it was packed. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there were as many teams.
Yeah.
There just wasn't as many teams back then.
Well, it makes sense you guys had them being up here, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like you guys had you guys had lacrosse teams, you guys had like swim teams, some
Mhm.
schools had swim teams. And in Jeff City, they had none of that. It was just like the major sports.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even like tennis and golf and stuff. But I knew one kid who played lacrosse. He had to go to Columbia to play at Rockbridge for that. And then, yeah, nobody was playing volleyball. It's just not a thing.
So were you at Helias?
No, I was
Oh.
at the public school.
Oh,
Jeff,
were you?
yeah,
Jeff
Jeff
City.
City. Yeah. Yeah, it was just Jeff City Public School. You know, at the time, I was like, man, how hard is this? There's only one school here, but now there's 2 there. Yeah. I just went to the public school.
Okay.
You might have said it and I missed it, but what eventually brought you to St. Louis from Jeff City?
I went to Lindenwood on a wrestling
Oh,
scholarship.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
so
that makes
just
sense.
wrestling.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. I basically been outside of the year of like being in San Antonio. I've
And here the whole time.
And so, are you getting is your son, or are you going to get them into jiu-jitsu or wrestling or anything like that? Do they want to do it?
No,
or?
not now. So they both did jujitsu when they were young.
Okay.
It was kind of like a non-negotiable. And I didn't push him too hard, but probably shouldn't have forced him to do it. He wrestled whenever he was in 8th grade, and then after that, he was just like, "Dad, like this is your thing." He's like, "I really don't want to do it." Which, like broke my soul, but
Oh, yeah. I know.
at least he got the experience, and like we'll still like work boxing and stuff every now and then. But just because I want him to at least be capable.
Yeah, be able to protect himself.
Yeah, for sure. But he's just really he's all in on volleyball, which is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, he does the lifting, and like I said, like he's doing club during off season. He'll roll right into the season. He says he wants to go to college and play, so we'll see.
Oh,
yeah, we'll see what he can do.
Yeah, that's a hard thing because like I got 2 boys and they're too young now to start, but I'm like, oh man, I can't wait till they can get into wrestling and jiu-jitsu and all the
Yeah.
stuff I love. But like, yeah, you don't want to push it on them, And
Yeah, well, hindsight being 2020, I should have put him in wrestling sooner. I just remember like growing up, I never wrestled kids club. I started in high school,
Okay.
and I remember, we had to work a kids club tournament that they hosted in Jeff City. I just remember how intense it was, and I remember some of these, these dads take their
Dads, yeah.
fucking
Yeah,
take their
too
kids to the
serious.
side, and I was like, man, like this is just too serious. So after being in the jiu-jitsu community for so long, it's just way more laid back. I was like, oh, let's start them in jiu-jitsu. It's a lot more chill. But it's kind of like a double-edged sword in that even though it's chill, if you want them to compete, there's not as many opportunities, and it's far more expensive. I mean, wrestling, you can wrestle every weekend. It's only like $20, $25 a tournament. It's super cheap. You can do it way more frequently. And also, I don't know, I just had those images in my head of those parents, and it definitely skewed me because like once I got him into wrestling, it's not nearly as intense as I had it in my head. Like for sure, it's loud in the gym, and some parents are maniacs and stuff, but especially when they're young, they're just kind of like pushing each other around, and like
Mhm.
maybe they'll fall down and take each other around. And they'll just kind of like do like the cowboy roll. They're just like
Yeah.
roll all over the place. So it's not nearly as crazy as I kind of had it in my head. So I think, especially when they're young, it would have been better to get them in a little bit sooner.
wrestling.
Yeah.
Just wrestling first and then eventually jiu-jitsu, you think?
For sure. For
Yeah, I
sure.
think that's kind of what I'm
Yeah.
thinking for my boys. I was, there's a Oakville, Melville like wrestling like kids wrestling club, and my one of my guys I train with, him and his son actually run it, so which is cool. I mean, hopefully they're still doing it in about 4 or 5 years from now, when I would actually want to get him in because my son's 2.5 now. So I mean, I'm thinking like 6, 7,
Yeah.
maybe somewhere around there.
Sure.
When he's kind of in that age where it's gonna make sense. Maybe earlier if he wants to, but because I think they said they start him at 4, which I was like, damn, I feel like that's a little early because
that's like just herding cats at that
yeah,
point.
I watch what we do
kickaroos.
we do the kickaroos up at Veta, and just watching all these kids run around this like field and them attempting to like get them to do like a drill is like there's no
it's tough.
there's no organization, there's no they don't want to they just want to run around and be crazy and like my son is always just wanting to like wrestle the other kids and and just always already into it.
I mean, they're my two are always wrestling with each other, so it's like, you know what, we need to get you guys into something. And I was talking with Adam Sella. He was saying, he's like, yeah, bring them on down. I do the Fox kids wrestling stuff. And
yeah,
he's like, bring them on down. Oh, okay.
It's such a natural thing to wrestle.
Oh yeah,
it is, like, especially for boys. Like I feel like that was something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to wrestle like from like an early age, and I didn't but then I ended up going to a high school that didn't have it, and so
it's a bummer.
But I had to, like, my freshman and sophomore year, I like petitioned and found a coach, and like we ended up like by my junior year having a team, and so I really only got to wrestle for 2 years, but I did a lot of like off season stuff with a lot of my buddies that went to like SLU and Vianney, and so like I had like a little bit going into that junior year. Like I would say maybe I had like a half a year's worth of experience, but still had never competed, but I still had kind of a good base, I guess, to start. But I always wish I would have gotten into it younger.
Dude, I've never met a grown man who wasn't happy that they wrestled or wished that they did wrestle.
I haven't either.
Yeah,
it's
like,
I think it teaches you so
across the
much,
board.
man.
Yeah.
Like I would a lot of my like work ethic and drive, I feel like, comes from wrestling.
Yeah, it completely changed my whole life.
Yeah,
it completely set me on a whole new like trajectory of life. And I only got into it just to get better at football. I was like, my buddy went out for wrestling, and his older brother had just went out for wrestling too, and I think he just wanted a friend to come to wrestling practice with him.
Yeah.
So he's like, dude, it'll make you better.
Get better tackling.
Well, it was really just about like improving like reaction time, and so I was like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, let me come check it out, and I just fell in love with it instantly. Completely. Wrestling was really the original seed for what like started my brand. So I think it was maybe my junior year. So we have duels during the week, or like, and then tournaments on the weekends, usually Friday, Saturday. And then like Sunday, we'd come in and we would do either like a lift or a run or just something to stay active, some sort of active recovery. And on this one particular like Sunday, like we get there and you could just tell like on the like coach's face, like I don't know, he had something like going on. Like he just wasn't very happy. Like he had a plan for us. So like we get in there and we lift, and like we're doing deadlifts and like bench press and pull ups, and he's like making us lift harder than we've ever had to lift. Like it's super hot in there, and like all the windows are fogged, and it's just a really tough lift. And then after that, he takes us across the street to like the high school, because we were like in a separate building for the wrestling room and weight room, and we had to run. We ran halls, so we would like go around the hall, and you had to make it in like, I don't know, it was like 45 seconds or something like that. And if everybody didn't make it, it didn't count.
Oh shit.
Yeah, dude. So like, the 103 pounder all the way up to heavyweight. Surely enough, the heavyweight wasn't going to make it at some point. So ultimately, we ended up doing, I don't know, I think we ended up doing like 16 sprints, which he told us afterwards like equated out to like sprinting like 2 miles.
Oh shit.
Dude, we were fucking toast. And so like we're all dead. We're thinking we're done. And like, no, dude, like they had already cranked up the heat in the wrestling room, dude. So like we go back to the wrestling room and we proceed to like live wrestle for the next hour.
Oh.
And like we're just like, we're crying, we're exhausted. And he just had this intention of like breaking us that day. But I just remember like there's this moment like where like I'm crying, I'm tired. I think I wrestled 189, so we were wrestling in groups of 3 at this point. So it was me, the 215 pounder, and the heavyweight.
Oh.
So it's like
the little guy.
Yeah, but I just like found this new gear. I just remember this like kind of like snapping, like finding this new gear, and like I wasn't tired anymore. It was kind of like the first seed to realize like we all have more in the tank, and like we're capable of far more than like our mind will let us believe, and like heck, you have to break through this mental wall. So it was just really the first understanding like how powerful the mind is, and like what you can actually do, break through that wall.
I think David Goggins said it best, and I think it was him. He was running Jesse Eitzler, I think.
Yeah,
Itzler was running him through, and he was like, when you feel like you're tired and you're done, that means you've got 40% left in the tank.
Yeah, or is it you're at 40%?
You're at 40%.
Yeah,
or something like that.
Is it at 40%? But yeah, something like that.
Yeah, same concept.
Yeah.
100%. It's like you think you're done, but dude, you're just getting started.
Right.
Like, you have a whole.
Got so much more.
Yeah. And so, with baseball, you don't ever get to that point. Like, sure, there's times where you're like stuck in an inning and you're trying to dig out of an inning and stuff like that, but you don't ever have that like
Physical exhaustion.
You experience mental exhaustion shit. You're playing games every single day. I mean, you get like 1 day off a month,
Yeah.
but like physical exhaustion, it's not baseball like it is. I mean, hockey was one thing. I mean, they beat the shit out of us. Our in high school, my head coach was was a sergeant in the Missouri Highway Patrol, and he ran our practices like fucking drill, like a drill sergeant. Like
Yeah.
it was fucking tough.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I thought it was awesome. You know, some guys would just bow out and be like, all right, you're done. Fucking leave. So then like just kept pushing. The guys that stick around were the guys that got to play. So
Either you want it or
or you don't.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of the thing I'm running into with like coaching wrestling at the Smith
Yeah, I was
right
gonna
now.
get into that. Yeah.
You know, they have they have like athletic excellence across most of their things, but they don't take wrestling too serious. Like a lot of the kids, they're in like club hockey, for example. A lot of the kids play hockey there, so there's like 2 days a week. Either they like leave early or they're just not there. Or
So they play both at the same time.
yeah, that's the thing.
Damn.
Yeah, exactly, dude. It's like when
Yeah,
you're in
but
season,
you
you're in
get
season.
into exactly what we were saying before. It's like if you're gonna put all your effort, you can't be the best at both things. You know?
No, exactly. So I mean,
That's the thing is their hockey team's always competing for state every year.
Yeah, their hockey's good.
Insane.
Their lacrosse is good. Their
Yeah.
football's good. I think they're playing for the state championship in football. Yeah, on Friday. So like they're good in all these sports, but for whatever reason, that just hasn't translated into wrestling. It's like a very secondary kind of afterthought. So I mean, me as a coach, it's just like, look, dude, if you want to be here, then I'm here for you. But like, if you're not going to be here, like, I can only do so much for you. Like, of course, I'm going to coach you, but like, I'm focused on the kids who want to be here and like want to work.
Yeah, I'm sure that's really tough.
So this is your first year coaching wrestling there?
Yeah. You know, I've coached wrestling for so long, whether it was like in the jiu-jitsu context or like MMA context. Like I've never stopped wrestling, but yeah, this is my first time coaching high school wrestling. Yeah, when my son did kids club, I helped with that. But yeah, this is super fun coaching these kids.
How's it been so far?
Good, man.
You said you got your first duel.
Yeah, tonight. Yeah, tonight.
Sweet.
So I mean, this is week 4 of practice. So we'll get the football kids in like next week after their season's done. But it should be fun, man. It's a learning experience for everybody.
Yeah,
awesome. Do you ever get any like attitudes from kids like that? Or because I get it like, oh, what are you talking about? What do you know? Type attitudes from the kids, because I coach a 17, 18 team. They get a little bit of attitude sometimes.
Yeah, fortunately we haven't, most of these kids haven't had enough success, especially in wrestling, to kind of have that attitude. Yeah. We've had some kids quit just because it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard sport. But no, I mean, I think the kids who are there, like they want to be there and they're pretty inquisitive and they want to learn. But they just have.
Well, I feel like every wrestler I've ever talked to has a really funny cutting weight story. Do you have any funny cutting weight stories?
No funny ones, dude. I've only
nothing funny about it.
No, dude. Like I missed weight one time as a sophomore on JV. I missed weight, and I've never missed weight ever again. It's never fun though, or funny.
Right. Well, I'm talking about like Colin telling us how he had to take like laxatives and shit himself.
Really?
Well, he took laxatives because he had to lose the weight, but then he couldn't sleep because he was so dehydrated. So he took a bunch of sleeping pills.
Oh wow!
He woke up in a puddle of his own shit.
Wow. Yeah. No, I've never done anything like that, dude. Yeah, but I was always pretty methodical with my weight cutting. Yeah. I would always diet down and then like cut water weight.
For fighting.
Yeah, for fighting. I didn't really have to cut a lot of weight as a wrestler.
Okay.
I would like diet down from football, moving into wrestling, but then I just maintained my weight. But no, I fought at 170.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I usually walked around like 195.
Okay.
So I'd usually diet down to like, if I could get to 78, that'd be great. But I was usually around like between 78 and like 80, and I would just do
10 pounds.
Yeah, all water weight. Just throw on the the plastics and the sweatsuit and stuff, and go hit the sauna and the treadmill and all that. And then I would probably do the last like 3 or 4 pounds just soaking in the tub with Epsom salt and rubbing alcohol. So I had it pretty dialed in. It sucks.
That's the thing. Like
never fun.
That's my like. I just don't know how I like food. I like to eat, and I don't know how I would be able to do that. I don't know if I could.
Yeah, I mean, I have like this weird tradition now that like every time, even jiu-jitsu, even if I don't have to cut weight, I still go. Even like if I'm doing a tournament or something, even if I'm like on weight or whatever, I still like to go and sit in the sauna for
Yeah.
like 20 minutes. Just even before I go to, like, my wife knows, she's like, all right, I know you want to go to the gym for about an hour, but I usually like to go and just hit like a nice long, like 30-minute stretch. And then I go sit in the sauna for 30 minutes just because that was like,
Yeah.
that was the ritual whenever because I was always, because I used to weigh for wrestling, because I played football as well. And I played football, all 4 years. And then my junior year is when we got the wrestling team going. So, but I'd weigh like 170, 180 for football. And then I wrestled at 145 or 140. So like
You got some weight to lose.
I lost, I had to lose a lot of weight. And, but like, yeah, not fun. I mean, I'd diet down, I'd progressively through that first month of wrestling, like I'd lose a lot of weight. Like, I'd try to cut. I usually get down to like the 50s and then.
Well, I mean, just naturally you're going to lose.
Wrestling
I'm assuming
itself.
just naturally you're going to lose a lot of weight just from how active and exhausting and tiring
that's how
wrestling practices and things were.
The wrestling
for
practices is just you lose a ton of weight because you're just burning so many fucking calories.
Oh yeah, I mean the water weight. I mean you're constantly just cycling through water.
Yeah, and then there was a lot of times where I'd if I was really heavy, like I'd get home from wrestling, eat dinner, and then go for like another small dinner. At the time, it was probably like a chicken breast or something, and then went for a run around the neighborhood.
Yeah,
and like you used to have to just constantly running all the time just to help lose weight. Sucked.
It's a constant battle for some people, for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
I would be one of those in a constant battle for sure. Does not sound fun. Oh,
yeah, that's why most wrestlers get really fat after they get done wrestling.
Yeah, you get like this.
Or fighters, it happens to.
Yeah, because you get this like eating disorder where you like, you feel like you can't eat for so long, and then you finally can. And you're like, I just want to eat everything.
Yeah, and I mean the rebound effect is real, especially when you cut drastically. I mean, you're gonna put on a ton of weight really fast. It's going to be hard to lose it again.
Yeah.
So people just completely screw up systems, cutting too much weight or not doing it the right way.
Well, that, and then I mean you're done training. You're not training like you were, which is also, like you said, is naturally going to keep the weight off. But because I saw it. I mean, when I quit playing baseball, I mean, it's not, like I said, it's not like baseball is a super active sport, but the training that's involved with it in the off season to prepare for the season, and the maintaining that you're doing during the season. I would always put on about 10 pounds throughout the season just because you're not training like you are in the off season. The off season's fucking sucked.
Yeah.
In terms of that. But, when I was done with baseball, like it was like, finally I was like, oh fuck, I don't have someone telling me when to lift, what to lift, and how to lift. Like, I'm going to take some time off. Well, that time turned into like 7 years.
Right.
And I went from being like 215, 220 to 270 like that.
Yeah.
My last spring training that I went to was in 2015, and I weighed in at 220. And then I went in for my physical. Once I retired, I went in to meet with my primary care physician. Like that was in May. And then I went in to meet with my primary care physician in December, and I weighed in. I was at 250. And that from May to December put on 30 pounds. I was like, fuck.
How much education do they do on like your guys' diet?
Zero. It's terrible. Yeah. Absolutely awful. There's none. Like, I mean, we talked about this on the show before. We did a question and answer, and someone was like, what's the most important thing that you guys have learned? And the biggest thing that I've learned, especially now that doing CrossFit, having a nutritionist, is how important like tracking, counting your macros and staying on top of that is, and like what to eat, when to eat, and how to eat. Yeah. We didn't have any of that. Like in college, we had the Cardinals nutritionist come in, and we were like, oh, this is going to be great. Being in college, teach us how to eat and all that. And she's like, all they said was, how Yadier lost 30 pounds? He went from drinking 12 32-ounce sodas a day to 3. I'm like, that's it. That's all we got to do. Just don't drink soda.
That was all the information.
That was pretty much. Yeah. Like they didn't talk to us about the importance of like how much protein you should eat, and carbs and fats, and how you should break that down. I didn't really have that until this year when I started with my nutritionist. And so it's just been, I mean, I wish. I mean, like even with the Reds, they were just like, oh, you need to make sure you're getting in enough protein. Well, what the fuck is enough protein?
Right.
Like, I don't know what that means. Like, I'm not a nutritionist. And they're like, oh, and they give us like some sort of like half-baked meal plan, and like not explaining any of it. It would just be like, hey, here's your off-season binder that has all the workouts and all that stuff in it. And then there was like 2 pages at the end, which was like, oh, hey, follow this diet plan or this meal plan, and you'll be just fine. But you're like, I'm looking at the meal plan. I'm like, okay, well, that's what I do eat, and it's like
I'm not fine.
Yeah, it's not working. Well, it's I feel like, I mean, this is something that just basic nutrition should be something that should be like taught in schools.
Absolutely.
And,
There's so
like
much shit
people
that
just
should be taught in schools,
don't
so.
know a lot. I mean, you don't really, you're not going to know it unless you go out and seek it.
Yeah.
Like I was having a conversation this past weekend with someone I know, and she's been on the semaglutide and she's lost a ton of weight doing it. She looks great, but she doesn't exercise. She like just basically, essentially what that stuff does, from my understanding, is it doesn't really make you hungry. The Ozempics and all that stuff. So she just like doesn't eat a ton. And she was asking me, she was talking to her doctor, and she's like, telling her that she needs to like start eating protein and like start exercising. And she was like asking me, she was like, no, I bought these Fairlife protein shakes and they're, 30 grams of protein. I just been drinking one of those a day. Is that enough? And I go, well, is that all the protein you're eating? She goes, I think so. And I'm like, no,
Right.
that's like a meal. Like
Right.
you need to be eating like, I said roughly a gram per pound of body weight is what you should kind of shoot for. And she was like, well, if I'm 160 pounds, like I got to drink like 9 of those a day. I'm like, no, like eat other things, meat, eggs, all these other, there's protein in a lot of other things than just a protein shake. But
egg whites are amazing.
I mean, you can, but it's just like, it's that stuff that, I've been, paying attention to like what I eat now for probably close to a decade. And, it's just something, but it's looking back on it is all stuff that like I was, like not self-taught, but like taught by somebody. And I've had to like go out and seek that information for myself. It was not something I was like taught in school or anything like that. So, and you got to think that most people out there, they don't have they don't have that education. They've never like gone out and looked for it.
Right.
Let's hope RFK puts something into place about that.
Yeah. Let's hope. I mean, so much of the information is just bad information.
Oh, it's terrible.
I mean, the food pyramid, absolutely garbage.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
shit. I think at one point they were trying to petition Congress to make pizza a vegetable.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
insane.
reading about this. I guess this was back when I was still playing. So this was like any time between 2010 and 2014.
Yeah.
That I was reading this. Yeah. I'm like, what? Really? What the fuck? Pizza, a vegetable? Come on now.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and the dissemination of information like takes so long. Fortunately, it's a lot quicker now. You can get more information through podcasts, right? Direct from the sources. But I mean, to get filtered into academia, it takes, I don't know, like 2 decades. It takes a long time for information to get
show up in the books that they're being
right.
taught,
And then most doctors, they're just educated on the pharmaceutical. There we go.
There it is.
Pharmaceutical model, right? So, I mean, it's just like, what's the pill for
'Cause that makes
whatever
money.
your symptom is, right?
Right.
Like, they're not really trying to cure anything.
Well, it's like ever since, even when I was playing baseball and I was coming in at 220, 225 in the off season, meeting with my primary. He's like, you're obese. I'm like, do I fucking look obese? Like, come on.
Yeah,
like,
they don't know anything.
No.
Yeah,
And,
for the most part.
Yeah, it's been, I'm done with my primary. Ever since this whole testosterone thing just kind of kept pushing me off and off and off, I was just like, fuck it.
Yeah. Yeah. I still don't even have a primary. I had a guy and I asked him, I wanted to get just like a complete blood work panel. He's like, well, if you're not having these symptoms, we probably don't recommend this test. I'm like, well, what are you talking? I'm like, all right, you're fired. Like, I don't want to use you.
Yeah. If you're not going to,
it's so reactionary. It's just sick care. Right. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Cause like, so, we talk about having low testosterone because Zach and I both have it and we're both on testosterone now. But like, I tried to go through my primary care to see if I could get it covered because I was so low, and they just kept pushing me out. Like the very first time I did a full blood panel, but they didn't explain what any of the shit. They're like, oh yeah, it's in your portal. You can look at it.
Yeah.
It's all there. I'm like, what the fuck does this mean?
Right.
No. And like, I'm looking at it and it has like range and where you should be and stuff like that, but like not what each thing is. And then I just found the one that said testosterone and it was like, holy shit, I'm low. And so they just kept pushing me off. Oh, we're going to do another test. So we're going to do another test. Oh, you need to get in with an endocrinologist.
Right.
We had Rocky on, and he owns New Age Health and Wellness. And if you're looking for a good place to go to get blood work and stuff like that done, they're awesome. But yeah, we went in, we both did full blood panels with them, and literally they just sat down. The nurse practitioner walked us through everything and what everything meant. It was great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
it was cool.
Yeah. And what does normal mean? Right. I mean,
Right.
What's normal for most people is being sick.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
true.
Yeah, you look
Yeah.
at 70% of the country is obese, something like that, or well, maybe it was 70%. Maybe I think it's something like that. I know there's like 79% of men below the age of 25 wouldn't qualify for the military, like
That's
for
terrible.
the physical fitness side of the military.
Bad.
Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah. Now, what's your training look like these days? Do you jump in with the wrestlers, or do you still train? Obviously, said you train on Wednesdays.
Yeah, so I coach on Wednesdays
Okay.
at St. Charles still. I still teach there. I teach privates, so like I'll roll with my students, but it's not as active as I once was. I definitely need to get better. I tend to do 75 hard at least once a year.
Okay.
But I definitely have to get better. Like for real.
Yeah.
I'm still I'm still fairly active. Every once in a while, I'll go swing the kettlebell or something, but I don't have like a super dialed in for
Okay.
real. It's much more maintenance these days. I'm not really training for anything, so I'm not really trying to hit any goals or anything. It's just maintenance. I haven't really gained a whole bunch of weight. I think like right now I'm probably 10 pounds heavier than I want to be. I think I'm at 205 right now. I usually like to stay around like 195. So I'm a little bit heavier, but yeah, man, I pretty much just focus on business or just like being with the kids or something like that. So I'm not like on a real dial in, anything like that.
Well, yeah, it helps to, like you said, it helps to have something to train for.
Yeah,
Like if you, that's having these couple matches that I had the last couple months. It was like, all right, I'm dialing in for these.
for sure.
Like I got a date on the calendar I gotta
Yeah.
look forward to. So
I kind of go through these ebbs and flows where I kind of get not like crazy out of shape, but like right now I'm probably drinking a little bit more than I want to be drinking, or like I'm just eating a lot of junk food and shit. But then I don't know, after like a couple months of that, I'll just like, all right, it's time to like
dial it in.
dial it in. Yeah. So I kind of go through these ebbs and flows. But I'm always staying active. It's just whether or not like I'm just really hitting hard or not. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just always doing something. Gotta stay active.
Yeah, I do a
Um,
lot of just like kind of like greasing the groove, Pavel Tatsulin kind of
Mm.
philosophy. just low reps, kind of frequently, but it's not so like I'll just randomly like go pick up the kettlebell, like do some swings, or I'm I'll bust out like 10 or 15 air squats. We do these challenges with Impose Will, these monthly challenges. So
I've seen those.
yeah, I try to stick with those as well. But
What's this month?
this month is just essentially just trying to
Like meet a new person or something?
yeah,
or
like just
something
have a
like that?
conversation with a stranger or pick up some trash in your area or just like do a good deed. Just kind of, stick in line with one of our core values of just, leaving people places better.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So, if we're doing something like physical, like last month we did 100 squats, like I'll hit the squats. But yeah, man, I'm never like on just like a routine where I'm just, it's like uh, Monday's chest day,
Yeah.
Tuesday's back day, so I'm not really that.
Well, you were mentioning earlier, kind of switching gears here a little bit, going back to the fatherhood side of it. You mentioned that your daughter has autism. How's that been raising a daughter with autism? What's that like? Is that been tough? Like, what's that like? Because I don't know. I've got my neighbor who.
Yeah.
So
Dude, I think raising kids just has its own challenges. Not she's been fairly easy, right? So I mean, that's such a broad spectrum.
Oh, for sure.
You know
My
what I
wife's
mean?
a special ed teacher. So,
Yeah, there's some kids who are just completely like nonverbal. Like that's not her case at all.
Gotcha.
So we got her some speech and therapy
Mhm.
when she was real young, just to help her communicate better. But outside of that, man, it's really not that bad.
Okay.
When she was younger, like most kids, maybe a little worse with her. Like she might have some meltdowns here and there. If I remember one time we were at Sky Zone
Mhm.
and she wanted to do the the trampoline where they hook you up with the bungees, but they had that it was like rented for a party, so she
Mhm.
couldn't do it. So she like lost her shit that day. She
Okay.
wasn't very happy. Like, and she was super young. I mean, she was probably
But I think most 3 year
I think
I
most
was
3
gonna say,
years
dude,
exactly.
My
So
kid would melt down too.
yeah, so she was pretty pissed. So I mean, stuff like that. But as a whole, man, sometimes I'm even hesitant to say she has autism because
Really?
it's such a blanket diagnosis.
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
it's a spectrum.
and it's
you
such a
know?
big spectrum, right?
You
I
know?
think if anything, like maybe they'd maybe classify her as like Asperger's if they still did.
Gotcha.
But no, it's been fine, man. I think especially when she was younger, I really dialed in on just like whole foods, real foods, adding things in like lion's mane, like CBD. And I think a lot of that had a big help. So yeah, I've always been probably the good thing about doing sports that are very like weight centric, where I have to focus on my weight, is it did take me down that path of just getting very deep into like health and nutrition. Because like if you eat like shit and you go train, like
You're gonna feel like shit.
immediately you immediately feel that. So I've grown very like in tune with my body and like what I eat and how it makes me feel. So that just took me down the path of health very early, and I think that's probably helped out a lot because they both have pretty good diets.
That's good. It's awesome. Are they close? Your son and daughter?
Yeah. So because their mom and I are divorced, they split time between our houses, so they're always together.
Gotcha.
For the longest time, everybody thought they were twins when they were younger.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But not so much these days.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean they're close. They get on each other's nerves like brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
But it's a wild ride, man. The weirdest thing about becoming a parent is like, when they're young, they're like your best friend. They're awesome. And they listen to you, and then somewhere around, at least for me, I noticed the switch is like middle school. Once they hit middle school, like everything just changes. Yeah, they start worrying about like friends, and they start worrying about kind of like their place amongst their peers, and they get a little more self conscious. So you just see these behavior changes. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, now and you always hear too. So like I'm always, especially since you have a boy and a girl. We both have 2 boys. My kids are fucking wild. My boys are nuts.
Yeah.
And then I've got friends that have girls. I'm like, oh my god, they're so great. They're so respectful and all that. And I'm just curious, has that switched? Like as your son's gotten older, has he gotten easier versus, because you always hear like, hey, the boys get easier as they get older, the girls get harder as they get older.
Yeah.
Have you kind of seen that, or is it?
Dude, they've both been pretty easy.
Yeah.
The whole way through.
All the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. He was always been very mature for his age, so he's always been a great help. Yeah, I haven't really noticed a huge difference, to be honest with
Okay.
you. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Well,
If anything,
No.
maybe her, like especially when she went through this kind of like her puberty kind of phase where, you know, all of her hormones are going crazy. So like there were some times where she was just super cranky.
Mhm.
I was like, fuck, man, like everything is just like pissing you off right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, just kind of going through those early teenage years has been a learning experience.
Mhm.
But no, man, I think where AJ's going now is getting kind of difficult. It's because he's reaching the spot where he's like he's almost an adult as far as like society is concerned, but it's like he's not.
Yeah.
Right. So he's a smart kid, he's a good kid, but he has some confidence. So it's like you make bad decisions very confidently. So it's just a learning experience to where as like a parent, like I have to kind of start like letting go and letting him make decisions and stuff, but kind of trying to keep those guardrails up. But eventually you transition from like being a parent to just kind of being like a guide and mentor, which is it's an interesting transition.
And
I'm kind of
you're
moving
saying
towards.
that's where you're at right now? With
Yeah,
him?
I'm kind of moving towards that because he's a junior in high school.
Okay.
So I mean, he'll graduate next year, and then it's like, all right, dude.
College or what are we doing?
Yeah, whatever.
it's like,
He
whatever he wants to
I
do.
think he wants to go to college. If he wants to, cool. If not, like, I'm not like pushing them towards college. Like when we were graduating, it was
Oh, you had
Where
to.
are you going to college?
yeah, it's like that's what you have
were
to
a
do.
loser
You
if
have
you
to go to
didn't. Yeah.
college, and you have to do this, and this if you want to be successful. But that's not
think
really
we've all
the
learned that
case.
that's not the
Yeah,
case
I mean the amount of people with college degrees who are just serving, they're bartenders or they're servers. There's so many. So
Oh yeah, man. I've got a college degree and I've never used it.
yeah. I mean, I got my master's in healthcare administration. I do not use it.
Yeah.
Like, what was so? Yeah. So if he wants to do it, cool. We'll see. But yeah, it's just an interesting phase to kind of transition into.
Yeah. Well, I heard a clip yesterday and it made me think of exactly what you're saying. Is he was saying, you've got 10 years where, your kids are going to be, they're going to look up to you. They're going to be your best friend.
Yeah, I just saw that Brendan Shop.
Yeah, it was
this
at Brennan
morning.
Ship. Yeah, it was Brennan. Yeah, and I was just like, it just made me think of exactly what you were saying. You got 10 years where you're gonna be kind of their whole world, and then when they get into middle school, they want to hang out with their friends, and you're not the the center of their universe anymore, and that's just
Yeah.
got to be like a really like hard transition for you as a parent.
It's an interesting transition.
I mean, we're gonna go through it, one day, and
Yeah.
it's just 10 years ahead of us.
Yeah,
It's,
I had a college professor tell me that like you start off as like the smartest when they're young, and then you slowly get dumber and dumber, and then like by the time they're 18, you're like the dumbest person. But then it kind of bounces back and you become smart again.
Sure.
Towards like mid to late 20s. I don't think they think I'm the dumbest person, but there's definitely times where you can just tell it's like, man, like dad doesn't know what he's talking about. But I just let it play out, and it's like, oh, see, I told you, like that's what I just said was going to
Yeah.
happen, and it happens. So just
Sure,
let it out.
fuck around and find out.
Yeah, like they'll learn.
Well, anything else you want to pitch while we got you here?
No, man, I really appreciate you guys having me on. This has been a fun conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
It's a
Well,
blast.
we like to end it with one last question. We call it the tombstone game.
Okay.
Here lies Adam. What's it say on your tombstone?
Oh, that's a good question. I have no idea. To have my name and beginning and end date, dude. I don't know. I don't really think about it too much. Like, I've come to grips with death, and I've come to grips with the idea that like once we die, I mean, eventually, like we're all kind of be forgotten. Like I want to leave a mark on this world, but I feel like we're all kind of be forgotten. So I don't really think about it too much. Like what I'm gonna say on the tombstone or like what the legacy will be. I mean, that's kind of for other people to decide. Like once I'm gone, I'm gone. So I don't too much.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for paying attention to the episode. Please click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit that like button. Be sure to, if you got something out of the episode, make sure you share it with a friend. We'd really appreciate that. And we will see you next time.